as you know, this year was an opportunity for us to make a couple of pivots that had been talked about previously. And so the first pivot was to be very explicit that the proceeds from this event support the Center for Racial and Gender Equity. This is an initiative of YWCA Lancaster that opened about October of 2020. And so the proceeds from the Race Against Racism support the programs and the efforts of the center. The second thing was to make even a closer tie to our mission. And we did that a couple ways. One way was to revamp the course. Some of you know that the course for a long time has sort of gone around the northeast quadrant of the city. And, you know, some folks felt that for a Race Against Racism, maybe we want to include parts of the city where folks live who are more marginalized, who are often left out, and to give some people an opportunity to see part of town that they normally might not cross through. So in revamping the course, we had a great opportunity to work with the African American Historical Society of Central Pennsylvania, identify some key historical sites, and then record a narrative about those sites by a local elder. And that was a fascinating process, and we learned so much. And I mean, not only new facts, but also I loved the way that it was presented, and that people were able to be so proud in speaking about that particular site that sometimes gets overlooked. Of course, that resulted in a new map and a really great playlist that we were able to offer up to folks as well, Songs for Social Justice. We also this year were so excited to offer to the folks who sign up for the fun run, the younger kids, a free book. Every child received a book written by Zetta Elliott, who was living in Lancaster when the book was published. And it actually is set in Lancaster and touches on exactly the story that we were trying to lift up, you know, the legacy of African Americans in this region, the Underground Railroad, disparate opportunities, and still today, all of our efforts for justice. So all of those things were pivots that we made. And I'm so pleased to say it was really well received by the community. We raised almost $200,000 this year, the highest revenue that we have ever achieved with this event. You all did this. I'm so grateful. We're so grateful. Not only were the fundraising goals exceeded, the number of participants, 2,410 people, including the entire Lincoln Middle School here in the city. Now, that is remarkable considering it was still a virtual race. I mean, that number is approaching what was happening a couple years ago with an in-person event. So that was fantastic. I also want to share a couple prize winners, top business fundraisers. The People of Fulton raised $2,216. Fulton Bank raised $1,701. And this is separate from their sponsorship. This is what was raised by runners, participants. And then Erie Insurance, $1,131. And then there were teams. And this kind of became a hot competition when, you know, some companies found out how many team members another company had, and they really wanted to be in first place. So let me announce these winners. Small Business Top Team Award, McNeese, Wallace, and Nurick with 33 members. Round of applause. Large Business Top Team Award, Fulton Bank and People of Fulton, 78 participants. And Place of Worship, Highland Presbyterian Church with 46 participants. Top team of a college was Franklin and Marshall with 51 participants. And then back to Lincoln Middle School, who had the biggest team of everyone, no matter any category, 493 students and 30 teachers. Okay, so now that we have this support for the center, we're going into a new year, and I want to let you know what's new there. I know some of you have engaged with us at various levels with the Center for Racial and Gender Equity, either around custom training for business or other programs. So last week we started our first Chief Equity Officer at YWCA Lancaster. His name is Adam Hosey. He's been working as a trainer with us for a couple of years while also teaching full-time in Harrisburg. So now he's with us 100%. I'm really excited about it. I appreciate Adam because of his depth of knowledge regarding equity issues, teaching modalities, adult learners, and his significant commitment. So we also are about to finish a hire for a full-time equity trainer. The demand for training, both in the business, government, nonprofit sector, has been significant this year. I think we've had over 35 clients. So we went ahead to hire a full-time trainer. One thing that's unique about our training style with regard to racial equity is that we have a cohort of 12 to 15 folks from the county, from across the county, all walks of life, backgrounds, demographics, who have done intensive work to become trainers with us. So when we deliver a training for any group, we are sort of mixing and matching to create a training team that makes sense based on the knowledge level of the group, what they want to focus on, and how we show up as the community we want to see. We also, of course, have a director for the Center for Racial and Gender Equity, Jasmine King. She has been with us. She was with us in a different role, and she's been in this job since October. So, of course, Jasmine will continue forward. One new effort that we are launching, since I came here and wanted to understand the community better, so many times I'm asking questions about how a current event or an indicator that we hear nationally plays out in Lancaster. And I just saw over and over such a lack of data and solid evidence, right? So we know there's an affordable housing crunch, but do we know who that's impacting the most? Every week in the newspaper, we see a story talking about the unemployment numbers in the county. It's never broken out by race. And if you're trying to achieve racial equity, you need to have that data. So we pulled together a team, including United Way, CAP, the Chamber, the Community Foundation, High Foundation, Community First Fund, United Way. I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Oh, Lancaster City Alliance. And we worked together for about 6 months and finally committed to hiring PolicyLink, a national research entity, to create a Lancaster County racial equity profile. That's what this company does. They do a deep dive into available data, and they are able to produce a study that tells us where we are on these different indicators. Our role and Adam's role as Chief Equity Officer will be to overlay those numbers with our story. And by our story, I mean the story across the county. So we will be talking to stakeholders, impacted communities, leaders in many different sectors in the next 9 months to, excavate those stories and our history. It's one thing to say, we have a diverse community, we have a large Puerto Rican population. But unless you understand why and how we got here, that story doesn't make a lot of sense. That's just one snapshot. So that's coming. The other thing we're about to do is launch the Women of Achievement nominations. You probably know that that is an event that we host every year. This will be year 5. About a month ago, we had a tragic loss at our agency. We had the sudden death of a senior staff member, Cheryl Gehring. And some of you may even know Cheryl. She had worked at the agency for 14 years in a couple different roles, and always with a clear focus on supporting women and girls. So we have a new award this year for a young woman, and it's named after Cheryl. So I hope as you roll off this call, that you'll be thinking about who within your company, within your circle of friends, within your community, adult or young woman, would be a good nominee for the Women of Achievement Awards this year. Thank you for joining. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and reach out anytime with questions, concerns, and great ideas for partnership. We're here.